Chris Paul to return to point guard form back here in Phoenix after a couple of underwhelming games in Milwaukee. It's game time, live from the finals, presented by YouTube TV. Welcome back to Phoenix, Arizona, everybody. NBA champion Steve Smith, NBA champion Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas. I'm Matt Weiner. Great to have you with us here as well. Gentlemen, welcome to Game 5.
I'm excited, Matt. I mean, this is the game right here, Isaiah. As you know well as anybody, pretty much who wins this one kind of got the edge to win the whole thing.
That's the way this historically works. 29 times in NBA history, the finals has been tied up at 2 games apiece. 21 times the winner of that Game 5 has gone on to win the NBA championship. It's a brand new 3-game series, and in what must be a finals first, we're in a newly named arena here as well. Between the last time we were in Phoenix and now, there was a naming rights deal struck, and so now we are sitting inside the Footprint Center.
Hey, you got to give the Suns marketing people credit. They know how to strike when the iron's hot. Hey, catch those sponsors now while we're in the finals.
Absolutely. Well, whatever it's called, we're here for Game 5 tonight, and for the Suns at the Footprint Center, Chris Paul hopes to make more of an imprint on this game than he did in Milwaukee. And for more on that, Jared Greenberg joins us with what to watch for tonight.
Matt, for the Bucks, can they bring their home game on the road here to the Valley? Chris Middleton, sensational at Pfizer Forum, but can he do it in Phoenix? And who's coming with him is a massive question. We know Giannis has been steady, but can Drew Holiday find his offensive game? Now, the Suns may have the much more pressing issue. Is Chris Paul healthy enough to play at a championship level where the Suns could win 2 out of the next 3 games? He's taking a no excuses mentality. He told me yesterday that if he's out on the court, he's healthy, no questions asked. However, many people around Phoenix are asking questions because in Game 4 at times, it looked like Chris Paul had trouble dribbling all those turnovers and costly turnovers. Remember, last round, Chris Paul had an issue with his hand with torn ligaments. We've also seen him this round with tape on one of his wrists. If Chris Paul can't play at a high enough level, this team may be in trouble, despite the fact that they're back here on their home court where they've had so much success this postseason, Matt.
Yeah, Jared, whatever the issue is, he has not played up to his standards, certainly in the 2 games in Milwaukee where he had 9 turnovers, 5 turnovers there in that Game 5, including a really costly one with 32 seconds left in that game. Still a winnable game at that point for the Suns. Where does Chris Paul have to get better tonight? You know what,
I'm just going to sum it up like this, Matt and Isaiah. When I got a chance to interview him, I talked about the shoulder that he had against, and then also the health and safety protocol. He said basically like this, Isaiah, no one cares. And I totally agree, Matt. I mean, yes, we all know his hand, his wrist, the ligament, but he is totally right. He is this close to getting his first championship. When you go down in history, no one's going to talk about his injury. Unfortunately, he does have it. But I like what his statement to me, Isaiah, was, nobody cares, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go.
Well, you see the numbers since that 32-point, 9 assist, 2 turnover Game 1. He hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been that.
Yeah, and when you talk about injuries, that's why they call it a marathon, right? It's you're going to have injuries, and that's part of the game, especially when you get to the finals. No one is really playing healthy. Now, can you play better when you're injured? And I believe Chris Paul is capable. I think he'll have a good game tonight. I think he's smart enough to overcome some of the injuries that he has. And I think he's smart enough to figure out the Milwaukee defense. But you also have to give Holiday some credit for the defense that he's employing also.
Yeah, we'll get deeper into Drew Holiday's defense on Chris Paul, which has been spectacular. But that's obviously part of the equation here as well. And the Bucks aren't playing him the same way they did in Game 1 when everyone said stop switching Brook Lopez out onto Chris Paul. Obviously, that's had an impact here as well. In terms of percentages, what do you think? How much of it is what the Bucks are doing? How much of it is simply the way Chris Paul has played?
I think it's a lot of what the Bucks are doing. Games 1 and 2, Chris Paul was able to get up 39 attempts. And, when as a point guard and you're getting that many attempts, he's 22 for 39. He's shooting it well from the field. 3 and 4, right? He goes down and he drops down to 27 attempts. So those attempts that he's not getting, those limited shots that he's not getting, you have to give Milwaukee credit for making adjustments. Now come Game 5, Chris Paul has had a chance to see what they're doing to him in Games 3 and 4. I do believe that he'll be able to get more attempts up. And the way Chris Paul plays on the offensive side, yeah, we look for his offensive, passing and his leadership. But the Suns also needs his scoring thrust and his ability to score also. And so look for those shot attempts to go up tonight.
Well, Game 4 was fascinating for a lot of different reasons. The Bucks got up 19 more shots than the Phoenix Suns because of offensive rebounds, because they didn't turn it over very much. But they were terrible shooting the basketball outside the restricted area, and that's what kept it close. That and Devin Booker, who was phenomenal with 42 points.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys I just smile because I love the way he plays, man. What I love right now, Isaiah, if you watch him, the games before, we know he's a mid-range assassin, but games 1, 2, and 3, he was getting up 4 attempts, 7 attempts, 4 attempts. In this game, he was 6 for 8. And then when you start watching all his buckets, from shooting from 16 feet and in, he was 11 for 14. I think he's in rhythm right now. He had that one bad game, but I think right now, for the Milwaukee Bucks, they're going to have the game plan for him right now. Because I think right now he's going to get 30 to 35 every night in this rest of this series.
And remember, he was pulled early in Game 3 in the rout in Milwaukee and responded with a vengeance. Zeke, in that third quarter, Bucks had no answers for him. He was 7 of 7 for 18.
The only thing they could do was pray that he get another foul, and the referees were able to take him out of the game. But as you're right, they had no defensive answer for him. And, Monty made a statement, after the game. That was one of those nights where Booker probably could have gone for 50-plus. And, as former players, when a guy's in a rhythm like that, and when he's unstoppable. And on that night, he was unstoppable from a scoring standpoint in the way he was shooting the ball, Smitty. He even had a couple of Smitty moves, to get his shot off. So, Smitty, you know that feeling when you're hot like that.
He get that hop and he started to walk. He got that walk, man. I always kind of watch when they come in.
Right.
He got that walk today, too. So he's coming.
Yeah.
Chris has always got that walk.
Because he got a limp.
No, but when we talk about Paul, we look at these numbers, right? And these are great numbers. However, games 3 and 4, those aren't good enough numbers to win. And I think Paul will have a good game tonight. Game 5 at home, I would be shocked if he doesn't play extremely well at home because he's so capable. And not only, again, from a leadership standpoint, he knows that this is the pressure, and pressure time is on him, and I think he'll stand up and live to the pressure.
Be really interesting. This where the chess match gets way more interesting. Everybody's seen everything. The rosters have shrunk, essentially because certain players, the coaches have decided can't be in the series for one reason or another. We've lost players. Saric is out for the Phoenix Suns. We found out today Thanasis Antetokounmpo is out because of health and safety protocols for the Milwaukee Bucks tonight as well. Things tighten up as the series gets deeper and deeper. Lots more to get to in our 90-minute pregame extravaganza. Excuse me.
That's all right, Matt. Get it out, baby. Get it out, man.
Stay with us, man. Easy.
Smitty, sit down with that guy. Unless you're a Suns fan, it is really hard not to root for Giannis Antetokounmpo, the way he approaches things, his dealings with the media. I know, I'm sorry, you've been a part of the media for a while now. But before we get anything else on him, that block was unbelievable. That lob was basically directly over his head, which meant that he had to pivot, take a step or two.
It's to help and then spin so you can get the right angle to cover the rim. He's the only one that we've seen that helps, and then he turned to take the right angle to cover the rim, which put him in position to get the block. Most bigs will help, then they recover, slide back, and it puts them at a bad angle and they get dunked on. So his fundamental principles allowed him to have one of the most historical blocks, just like LeBron James did in that Golden State Warrior game. Their fundamentals, we talk about the block, but their fundamental principles allowed them to be able to cover the rim. And LeBron James, if you go back and look at his block, he covered both sides of the rim.
Yes.
He had the initial layup covered, and then if there was going to be a reverse, he had the reverse covered. So those fundamental principles allow you to make great plays. And Giannis was fundamentally sound the way he made the play because he turned and then covered the rim as opposed to just sliding to protect.
Matt, I never really disagree with Isaiah, but I was fundamentally sound too. I couldn't do that.
Well, you had that bad knee, Smitty. When you was in high school, you could.
But to Zeke's point, I think the fundamentals and the athleticism, that's what make the greats great.
Right.
The other players good. And for me, I talked about it when we were off camera, the sequence. That's the 2-on-1 drill, Isaiah, where you got to bait a guy. And then I think for me was not fouling in that possession because Andre Ayton is grabbing it coming down and not worried about getting dunked on. A lot of
right-hand block that puts him in perfect defensive position.
There's also an incredible sense of geometry and space and time to time that just so with your back to the ball that Ayton's going to catch it right there and he's in the proper position. It's just amazing, and it's going to be dissected for years to come, and it'll still be great.
And Matt, most players, we're taught never turn your back to the ball.
Right.
However, in this situation, you're taught to turn your back to the basketball. And most of us will always say, no, I'm not going to turn my back to the ball. And consequently, you end up out of position. So you don't trust the physics and you don't trust the geometry. And what Giannis did on that play, he trusted the physics and the geometry, which put him in perfect position.
Offensively, Giannis Antetokounmpo falls into the category of a great for this simple reason. Great players are the kinds of folks that everyone in the building knows what they're going to do, and they do it anyway. And in his case, that's score in the paint. He already has the second most points in the paint in a single postseason in the last 25 years, and there's only so much Phoenix can do about it.
Well, I've always said this. His understanding of where he's getting the ball, where he wants to catch it at, is allowing him to dominate. The last 2 out of the last 3 games, he's put up 40-plus numbers. That means that they can't stop him.
Yeah, and I look at it, Matt, just from games 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 90% of those plays, other than getting it off the glass and pushing it, Isaiah, was half-court plays where he wasn't initiating offense. He was moving without the basketball. They had him cutting, going to the block, cutting down the lane, tip-ins, offensive rebounds, and I think that's where he does his most damage. I love when he gets it off the glass and pushes it. I don't like it as much in a half-court when the defense is set.
I think I tweeted this the other night. The Bucks half-court offense is much better when Giannis is finishing it than it is when he starts it. At least that's been my feeling watching this series so far.
He's
watching
like Shaq.
the playoffs.
He's like Shaq finishing it.
Yes. On the other end, Chris Middleton seemingly never gets easy shots within this offense and still winds up with a 40-point game in Game 4.
Just watching him, and I marvel because Matt said it best. Nothing's easy for him. Everything is contested. I would love for them, as his size, Isaiah, run him off that baseline. We called it floppy, where if somebody just makes a couple mistakes, you catch it, you get an easy shot. And then if they don't make a mistake, well, he takes a hard shot. But it seems like everything is hard for him. Next evolution for me is if they're going to isolate him, Isaiah, let him catch it at the elbow. Let him catch it on the block. But I give him credit because he has hands, arms, and bodies and eyes watching him, and he's still putting up great numbers, especially on the at home. But he has to do this on the road.
Smitty, you bring up a great point in terms of, he's scoring a lot of his points from the mid-range. So why would you run him off some baseline screens, some pin downs? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but he's still in the mid-range, right?
Yes.
So, he can catch and shoot in those positions.
And he's a great mid-range player.
Yeah, and make it a little easier for him as opposed to going 1 against 5 in the mid-range.
Because to Isaiah's point, if Isaiah's guard me and I come off a screen and I pump fake, he has to bite.
I got to bite.
But if I'm dribbling against Isaiah, I'm playing into his strengths.
Yes.
He's going to turn me, make me go where I don't want to. I can still get his shot off, but it's a difficult shot. But if I'm coming off screens and he's late or he gets bumped just a nudge, I get an open look.
And guess what? I might get caught on the screen, so you might get an open look. But if you're playing one-on-one against me,
I'm not going to get open look.
You're not going to get open look.
I'm going to get a hard look.
You're going to get a hard look.
Playoff career high 40 in Game 4. He also got to the free throw line 8 times. That's a huge deal
That's what he needs
for
to
the
do.
Milwaukee Bucks. He was 7 of 8 from the line. What's P.J. Tucker wearing tonight?
Man, he is.
Overalls. I did not see that coming.
I didn't see it either because I'm looking at that chain.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Farmer Tucker.
Make him uncomfortable.
He has to feel you. Physically, he has to feel you a little bit. When he plays in space, he's very dangerous. So I was just saying he has to feel you. A lot of different coverages at him, but I think first and foremost, he has to feel the presence on the ball.
In this league, when you play long enough, and I feel like I done played at least for a little while, you have to have a short memory. You can't dwell on it, win or lose. If you win by 20, if you lose by 20, you start back over 0-0, and you go from there.
This isn't going to be easy. We said that at the beginning of the playoffs, and now we're in the NBA Finals. Embrace the moment and understand that, this is it. It's going to be tough, but you have to overcome obstacles.
It was funny listening to Chris Paul talking about having a short memory because that guy doesn't forget anything. Anything.
Well, you want to remember the good things and have a short memory for the bad things.
I understand the philosophy.
Yes.
I'm saying he knows it all.
Yeah.
Including these numbers. It was not it was an interesting display. We'll get deeper into this matchup by the point guards. In terms of offense, not great numbers from the two, although Chris Paul and Drew Holiday produced 7 assists apiece, but between the two, shot 9 of 33 and 0 of 7 from three-point range, and of course the 5 turnovers from Chris Paul have been much discussed. Here's Jared Greenberg with Monty Williams ahead of tonight's Game 5.
Coach Williams, you're back at home, the friendly confines. If you win 2 games here, you're NBA champions. What's the message to the team?
Hoop. That's what our message has been all year, and taking the next step and not getting ahead of ourselves. We can learn from what happened this past week. We know we are capable of good things at home and on the road. And, this is hard for both teams. We're here for a reason. And so we told our guys to hoop, learn from the film, stay together, and get past the hard. The hard right now is the Milwaukee Bucks.
Spoke to Chris yesterday, and he's taking, obviously, as you'd expect, a no excuses mentality, right? But with his hand, how much do you have to manage that throughout the course of a game?
I think Chris and I know my history with him. He's honest with me. I know his competitive edge. He's not going to let anything get in the way of him helping our team win. And so if the medical people say he's fine, I look him in the eye and he tells me he's fine, that's what I go on.
Based on what you saw on the film, you talked about the turnovers. Chris had 5 of them. I know you are looking at a broader picture of 17.
Yeah.
Is it what the Bucks are doing, or did you learn something about what you guys are or not doing?
Both. I mean, you have to give them credit. They're a good defensive team. They have been for the past few years. There were some environments that we didn't play well in. Our spacing wasn't where it needs to be. But you have to give them credit. But we also feel like we can do some things a lot better.
Coach, best of luck tonight. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's a good point by Monty Williams. The Bucks had the best defensive rating of any team in the postseason prior to this series beginning. I want to turn to you, Zeke, as a former star player and head coach in this league. How much of what your star player, who may or may not be hurt, says do you believe as a coach?
None of it in terms of injuries, because your best player, he wants to play. And we're talking about Chris Paul.
You hope he wants to play, right?
Yeah, he wants to play, and not only does he want to play, but he wants to play well. And in the finals and in the playoffs, what Smitty and we all know, these players have tremendous pride, and they all want to play well, and they all want to give their best performance, especially your better players. So when they have nights where they don't play well or they don't shoot the ball well, no one is more upset than they are themselves. Like we saw Booker the other night, didn't have a good shooting night, and then he bounced back and came back with a 40. Mm-hmm. I'm expecting Chris Paul to do the same thing. He'll critique his game, but he'll understand what he can and can't do. And I think he will play so much better tonight. And in this Game 5, I think this will be kind of his game again.
It would be a huge relief for the Suns if they can get DeAndre Ayton more involved offensively. He had not a postseason low, a season low, 6 points in Game 4.
And just 3 of 9, Matt, and I think he needs more attempts. Reason why is we watch some of these plays, and we've all been watching it off the screen and roll, no matter what, if they can get him the basketball, because he's one of those big that he's comfortable catching the basketball even before the free throw line making a play. And I love this. Okay, roll him down against a small guy, let him go to work. And if he gets fouled, Matt and Isaiah, he's shooting 90% in this series. This is a big that has touch, has feel. He needs more attempts. And for a guy, at one point, Matt was throwing out these 70% stats.
Yeah,
and I'm
that was a thing.
Devin Booker right here. So what? Pat Connaughton and Chris Middleton is right there. Throw it up, let him go get it because he has a great feel. He can finish. He can dunk it. He has a jump hook. He can make the pass. And he shoots 90% in this series from the free throw line. He needs more touches.
And increasingly, he's facing smaller and smaller Bucks lineups because Brook Lopez's time on the floor is shrinking as this series moves forward. He's part of the equation tonight as well here for Game 5. The minutes are reduced. The sense of fashion is just growing by the day.
I like that Detroit hat he wearing. Come on now.
Brook Lopez ready to go.
It's honest where, they can't always load up on him because now they know he will pass it, he will kick it to his other teammates, other guys to allow them to play some. So they can't really load up on him as much as they used to. And like I said, we just got to be ready for him when he kicks it out, be able to keep the defense honest, and if not, just keep moving, driving it.
When you focus on the past, that's your ego. Yeah, I did this in the past. I won that in the past. And when I focus in the future, is my pride. Like, next game 5, I'll do this and this and this. I kind of try to focus in the, in the moment, in the present. And that's humility. That's being humble. That's not setting no expectation. That's going out there, enjoying the game, competing at a high level.
A very deep philosophical answer from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Love that answer. Basically, in Game 4, if it didn't involve shooting the basketball from any distance, the Bucks dominated. They did just about everything better than the Phoenix Suns. They just didn't shoot it well, and that's why it was close until the end. All right, it is time for Ask the Analyst. We have brought in a couple of virtual fans. Standard disclaimer, they are actually human beings, but they are joining us virtually. And it's Chris and Jonathan with us for questions for Zeke and for Smitty. Chris, you are up first with us. What do you have for our guys?
Yeah, it's a simple question. Do you guys think the Bucks are going to win in 6, or are the Bucks going to win in 7?
Well, I think this series goes 7, and in a 7-game series, it's a toss-up. But I do think it goes 7. I don't see the Bucks winning in 6.
I got to be honest. I never heard him say Bucks. I don't know if that satisfied your answer, Chris. I don't know if that.
We'll take it for now.
I would say, Chris, I'm with Isaiah. I think it goes 7, and I think when you watch the Milwaukee Bucks, if they can get hot from the outside in any of these games, it gives them an advantage. Everything Matt Weiner showed us on all those boards and graphics has been in the paint. So if they can get Drew Holiday, Pat Connaughton, maybe Brent Forbes, and Lopez to get hot to go with those numbers, they have a great chance. But I'm with Isaiah. This goes 7.
I'm not an analyst, and you didn't ask me, but I do feel like if the Bucks at some point can hit some shots, then they've found some stuff on the inside that is a huge advantage over the Phoenix Suns. All right, Jonathan, you're up next. Thanks, Chris. Jonathan, you're up next.
Awesome.
What question do you have for us?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that was the wrong answer on the Bucks in 6 or Bucks in 7 question. It's pretty clearly going to be Bucks in 6. But my question is thinking about what happened. Thinking about Game 3, one of the things that I think the Bucks were able to do really effectively was get after Ayton and ultimately kind of target him and get him in foul trouble. And once Ayton was in foul trouble, the tide of that game really changed. So going into Game 4, I was expecting the Bucks to kind of follow that aggressively from the start and trying to target Ayton and rack up some fouls on him. And from a fan perspective, I suppose, it didn't seem like they were able to do that as effectively or intentionally as maybe I had expected. So I guess the question is, do you think that was an adjustment that the Suns made from 3 to 4, or is it something that the Bucks could try to get back to? Do you think that's a winning strategy for them?
Now, see, that there you go talking about strategy. and you're absolutely right. I mean, you sound like, you could be up here with us. When Ayton goes off the floor, Milwaukee has a tremendous advantage because, Giannis is so big and he's taller and he's faster and he's stronger than everyone. So moving Ayton off the floor, Ayton has been playing extremely well. So you would think that would be one of the targets to move him off the floor, particularly since Giannis has the basketball and they're matched up against each other. So, very astute analysis, and we'll see what happens here in Game 5.
Yeah, I think if you're a Bucks fan, you definitely want to have Ayton in foul trouble. But I look at it sometimes, if you try to just target him it throws you out of rhythm. And I think you just have to play basketball. If you find him in a situation where he has 3 or 4 fouls, maybe early in the third quarter, you might take a play or two. But when you start just trying to target somebody to try to get him in foul trouble, that's when it kind of backfires and everybody's looking to foul him. You know, to be a young guy, Aiden does a good job of showing his chest, staying vertical, and making you score over the top. Good question, though. I like that one.
It is a good question. Sometimes you can overthink these things, though,
Yes.
and cause yourself problems. Jonathan, maybe we should be asking you.
Well, I suppose we'll see what happens, right?
All right, Chris, Jonathan, thank you both so much.
I like that
Our
shirt Chris has
virtual
on,
fans,
though.
that is a nice shirt.
That NBA Jam, that's nice.
That is nice. Guys, enjoy Game 5 tonight. Good luck to you.
Thank you, guys.
More Bucks fans making their way into the building here in Phoenix as well. Love to see their win break this home team lock on the series so far. As the victim of that dunk back in 1989, our friend Mark Jackson might say, "Mama, here comes that man."
Mark does this one every season.
It's Tom Chambers,
Oh, man.
4-time All-Star, longtime Phoenix Sun, and even much longer TV analyst here on
How about
pregame
that?
and postgame since the late 90s.
See as the
When
Suns
people
lead
start
the
saying
Bucks
that dunk was
2-1,
a quarter of a
but the
century ago,
momentum
it's kind
shifted
of
here in
date
Milwaukee
you a little bit.
as the
you
team
know?
faced an
Now
0-2
it's even
deficit for
longer
the
than that.
second time this postseason.
Oh, man. Tom, you didn't smile.
No, I acted like I told you
I do that all the time.
it was a big game, and Patrick Ewing and Mark Jackson. What was Mark Jackson thinking? Come on, man. But, the funny thing about it is Steve, you and Zeke know, like, people think I only dunked one time in my career.
No.
You're the dunk contest guy.
No. We remember a lot, but that's just a famous one, though.
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
You were a dunk contest guy for the
Yeah.
younger viewers who may not remember all of that.
That
But
wasn't my best
question on
moment.
that one is, how much extra height did you get by climbing Mark's shoulder?
There's a verbiage they say when I can't say it. Anyway, no way.
No, don't say it.
I won't say it. But no, I don't know. I mean, I could dunk. I could hit my head on the rim, and that was about where it was. It was a big basket. You know, the Knicks were the best team in the East. We were the best. You know, trying to be the best in the West, and we need the basket. And I knew I had to get to the rim because when you played against guys like these guys, if you didn't get the rim, you're on your back.
I remember my rookie season. This is the first time I had seen him. Number 24 walking. He got this long blonde hair, like all the way almost down to his shoulders, right? These big blue eyes. And John Long's supposed to be our tough guy, right? And we're standing at the foul line, and John Long is like really, giving it to him. And he looked at John and he said something to John. I won't say what he said, but he looked at John and said something. I was like, oh, he kind of tough. Don't let the blonde hair and the blue eyes fool
So then
you.
John went and got like Rick Mahorn and Lambier and Rodman and I mean that team wasn't fun.
You still
I like
have
to
40
run and
on
have
us.
fun, and you went near the paint with these guys,
Yep.
and there wasn't no flagrant.
No, not at all. Tom, question for me is, you've been out here for so long, just watching this young team, and particularly DeAndre Ayton, how much he has grown, before your eyes.
Well, with DeAndre, he's got the skill set, like you can't even describe a big guy that has the skill set where he can shoot it, he can run, he can jump, he's so athletic, but it's been up and down. It's kind of been a roller coaster ride. But when the playoffs started, he really, really solidified himself as being consistent. Took pride in that, goes out every night with the effort. Now, as we all know, in the playoffs, you can look bad at times.
Yes.
You can go 7 or 21. We've done that. I mean, it's tough. And he's learning, just by going out there and doing it, but he has been absolutely terrific and has really made his machine work.
Can you talk a little bit about like how this team has, from the bubble last year, going 8-0 in the bubble, and then all of a sudden carrying that into this year and making the jump to the NBA Finals? I mean, it's kind of unprecedented what they've done as a basketball team collectively together.
It really is, and I've enjoyed it so much. Obviously, Monty has been great. James has been terrific. The team was good, as you mentioned, in the bubble. You liked what you saw, but then when Chris Paul came to town, it was like every possession is important.
Mm-hmm.
Every play is vital. And some teams didn't embrace that type of talk all the time.
Yeah.
And yet you see what he's done here, and these guys have absorbed it like sponges. They relish everything he says. The guy never shuts up. I mean, when he's out the game, when he's in the locker room, when he's going in there for treatment and coming back out, I mean, he is there. He has just been unbelievable for this group of people.
You watch this team every day. You talk about this team every day. At what point in the season did you start to think that this was possible?
Well, we beat Milwaukee twice this year, and it was close. I mean, this team was so good during the regular season at beating teams that were there. I mean, they rose to the occasion almost every single time. Now, they lost a few, and so you'd be like, oh, man, we don't want to be too, optimistic about this. But Monty's been so great about not too high, not too low. I mean, all of his Monty-isms, as we call them, this team just keeps their head down and has gone to work. And Chris Paul, you can't get a smile out of him after a game. I mean, well, maybe against the Western Conference Finals, he smiled a little bit. He cried a little bit, which was really cool, too. But it's just they've just stayed on even keel. They really haven't had any losing streaks this season, more than maybe 2. So this would probably be maybe the first time ever.
They've had one 3-game losing streak.
So I feel really good about this team. I'm confident about this team. But that being said, it's like, oh, man.
Tom, my question is, you talked about how cool and calm and poised, but there are some young guys, Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges. Have you seen this before for a young group of guys that play? A lot of times you have some guys coming off the bench, but a lot of these guys are playing major minutes, and they're young enough that they're playing like vets.
Well, they really are, and they do such a great job. Mikal Bridges, I mean, he guards the toughest guy every night. Doesn't even get any consideration for defensive player. I'm like, are you kidding me? You see the people he's slowing down every single night because they don't know. He's not a household name yet. He will be. Cam Johnson comes in, knocks down shots. I mean, we've got Cam Payne, who's when Chris missed a couple games and had the shoulder thing, Cam was absolutely terrific and could come in and do that. So there's a lot. I love Torrey Craig. He comes in with his energy, offensive rebounding machine, can play big when he needs to. So we've got a group of guys that are going to come in and get it done. I mean, every single night, it's like it's a different guy, and you're like, okay, who's going to do it tonight? I mean, Jay Crowder can go 0 for 8, and the other guys step up and do what they need to do for this team. And like you mentioned, Steve, it's like they've been here and done this for a long period of time, and they haven't. But it doesn't seem like the moment has been too big for them at all. But you also have to remember, and I quote Monty a lot because I love that man, okay? He said, we took a punch to the freaking jaw, we took a punch to the gut, and he just describes it and just says it the right way to these guys to keep them in the moment. And I love him. I love what they're doing. And Chris Paul right now?
Yeah.
Chris Paul right now?
Yeah.
You know what's going on in his brain right now.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what we've been talking about.
Oh, man.
Of course, you were part of the last Suns finals team back in 1993, coached by Paul Westphal, who was a player on the first Suns team back in '76. And unfortunately, this community lost Paul Westphal back in January after a fight with brain cancer. Can you describe what he meant to this organization and to this city?
Well, he's the reason I came to Arizona. We had the same agent at the time. He said, come on over here and meet. And with Jerry Colangelo, he's like, okay, you got 10 minutes to figure out if you want to come or not, or I'm going to offer it to somebody else. I'm like, okay. I'm like in. But Paul is just a terrific human being, the best man you will ever meet, literally. He did so much. I mean, if you can handle Charles Barkley, if you can do that kind of a thing, he might have even been better at that than Ernie is, if you know what I'm talking about. But Paul is just great human being. Love him, his wife Cindy, the family. A tremendous loss for this organization, obviously, but he did so much here as a player and as a coach.
Hall of Famer, gone too soon at the age of 70.
Yes.
Next time we do a whole segment just on Barkley's.
Can we see that dunk one more time?
We can see that dunk one more time.
Tom, I want to see it one more time.
I want my crew to roll things back all the time,
One thing, Tom, what I like, Isaiah, is watch Kevin Johnson afterwards.
Yeah. He's like, what?
Look at Kevin Johnson.
No, he looks at it. He gave me my look.
Yeah. I just know Mark's here somewhere.
I can't wait to see Mark.
I know Mark's here somewhere. I just hope he's watching.
He's staring down for me. Patrick slowed down right then, too. Patrick saw what was coming. He just kind of slowed down a little bit right there.
There goes that man. There goes that man, Tom Chambers. Suns All-Star and broadcaster. Great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
All right, I'll get back to being a fan now.
All right, do that. The non-paid fans are also coming in.
Oh man, I don't have a hat like that.
I want that purple jacket. That's what I want. I think I can rock that.
No, I'm gonna stick with the hat.
Oh, he got the belt. He got the belt.
Got a lot going on
Got
there.
the Prince jacket.
A little history in this NBA Finals. This is the first time 3 different players have had 40-point games in the same series. Giannis, of course, a couple of them in games 2 and 3. Chris Middleton in game 4, likewise for Devin Booker. Once again, Jared Greenberg, this time with Bucks head coach Mike Budenholzer.
Coach Bud, I know as much of a basketball coach that you are, you're also a sports psychologist. Can you take us inside the room? What is it about the home versus the road that has plagued your team, and have you found the solution?
Well, I mean, I think both teams, if you get to this stage, you've probably won some on the road. I think there's a lot of good experiences for us winning road games. Getting to here, obviously game 1 and game 2 didn't go our way, but there's a lot of confidence in the locker room, a lot of confidence in the group. So, we're excited to play game 5.
You did a tremendous job the last few games creating turnovers. What are you seeing in the film to make that happen?
I think, it starts with good individual defense. We had some guys that are really gifted, really talented defensively. The activity, just the competitiveness, around that. We got to continue to, work, just, try and make them uncomfortable. Be solid at the same time. It's, we're not necessarily game planning to create turnovers. It's just hopefully happening out of activity and competitiveness.
We've seen Drew have a big part in that defense. He's been sensational this series, but is that costing him at the offensive end, what he's having to expend defensively?
Well, I mean, we have so much appreciation and respect for what Drew's doing defensively. We're putting a lot on his shoulders. But he knows, and we know he can still deliver on the other end too. And we have a lot of confidence that he's had some big games, and we need everything we can from him on both ends.
Coach, best of luck tonight. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Jared.
Thanks.
Well, fairly or unfairly, Drew Holiday has kind of become the poster child for the Bucks' inefficient offense in this series. Milwaukee, and this blows me away, is shooting under 35% from outside the restricted area. The little circle meaning a dunk or a layup. That's unbelievable that they're in this series. Of course, Drew Holiday coming off a 4 of 20 game 4. And Jared asked the question about his defense affecting his offense, and it's an interesting one, but defensively, he's been unbelievable.
But defensively, he has been unbelievable. And yeah, sometimes the defense does affect your offense, but we see him picking up Chris Paul early in transition, making him work, keeping him going as much to his left hand as possible. And when he gets to his right, then they're staying attached. Again, we as point guards, we know what this type of defensive pressure can do. Again, keeping him going left, making him use that left hand as often as possible. Key turnover in the game the other night. He goes under the screen, but he keeps Chris Paul going to his left hand, forcing him to make tough passes with his non-dominant hand. And when you want to stop a guy like Chris Paul, you can't let him go to his right. You can't let him get that rhythm. Now, Holiday has been so great on the defensive side of the ball, Smitty. I think here in this game 5, he's going to have, a better offensive game, because I do think he'll get better quality shots. I think he'll get better quality looks. And I do think that now he's settled down offensively, whereas he had so much concentration that he had to put on Chris Paul, because remember, Chris Paul in game 1 and 2, he was the dominant player in the series.
Right.
In 3 and 4, Holiday had to calm that down, and he did. Now he can get back to thinking about his offense.
I mean, his resume alone would suggest he'll get better offensively at some point in this series, because he's shooting 33% and just 6 of 22 from three-point range through 4 games so far. Another opportunity tonight for the Bucks to try to take the lead on the road. DeAndre Ayton would like to get a little more involved offensively as well here in Phoenix in Game 5.
Players and their fans to protect home. It is really safe. It is really homey if you're a Suns fan, because your team is 8-2 this postseason so far. Welcome to NBA Countdown. Maria Taylor alongside Adrian Wojnarowski, Jalen Rose, and obviously we are 1 down. Jay Williams is in health and safety protocols himself, so our shout out to our younger brother. We hope that you are doing well right now and taking care of yourself.
Jay Will, fully vaccinated. We love him. We miss you, my brother. But I got to say something to everybody out there, because I've seen a lot of people question, like, oh, since he's vaccinated, does that mean that I or we can't get COVID? It's almost like wearing a bulletproof vest, right? It doesn't mean you can't take a bullet wound. Yeah. Like wearing a seat
It doesn't mean you can't get killed in a car accident. Still get vaccinated. We miss you, Jay Will.
Absolutely, Jay Will. Safety first for all of the fans out there enjoying this Game 5. All right, let's get right down to it because this is a critical, pivotal game for both the Bucks and the Suns faithful. Let's check out tonight's keys to the game brought to you by Kia. Devin Booker had a huge performance in Game 4, but the Suns need Chris Paul to get going, who had 15 turnovers in his last 3 games. That is his most over a 3-game span in the playoffs since 2012. And as for the Bucks, they have dominated in transition and on the boards. They are the first team over the last 25 postseasons to outscore an opponent by 30 fast break points and 30 second chance points in the first 4 games of a series. And tonight's game is massive when looking historically. In fact, in finals history, the winner of Game 5 when the series is tied at 2-2 has gone on to win the title 72% of the time. So you definitely want to get Game 5 with an opportunity to take home the entire finals. But I got to ask you a question, Jalen. Okay. If I told you that Devin Booker had 42 points, 38 points in the first 3 quarters, and the Suns were able to outshoot the Bucks by 11 percentage points, would you say they'd be tied up 2-2 or up 3-1?
I would be thinking they were up 3-1.
Right.
The problem is the CP3 that we saw in the closeout games versus the Clippers and in Game 1 of this series has not been the guy we've seen in the last few games. How about the fact that he had 5 turnovers in the previous game? That's as many as the Bucks as an entire team. He struggled with the turnovers. He struggled offensively. They started this series, the Milwaukee Bucks, with P.J. Tucker on CP3. They switched that to Drew Holiday, and he's been wearing them like a straitjacket, using his size, using his youth, picking him up 75 feet. Chris Paul, I believe, has to be a breakout player if they're going to find a way to advance, Woj, because there are whispers that the point guard has looked old the last couple of years, that last couple of games.
And Jalen, next season at this time, or next season in the playoffs, Chris Paul's going to be 37 years old, and he doesn't know whether that's going to be here in Phoenix or somewhere else. He's got a $44 million option on his contract. He can do an extension in Phoenix. He can become a free agent. And remember, there's a lot bigger free agent market this summer for Chris Paul than there was a trade market for him coming out of Oklahoma City. But he wanted to be in Phoenix, and he wanted Oklahoma City to do this deal with the Suns. And the deal they ultimately did in November, that sat on the table for about 2 months, unchanged, before Phoenix did the deal. He thought this was his best chance to win a championship. And you look at this 16-year NBA career, this is it for Chris Paul. He's got to find a way. And in Game 5, like Maria pointed out, the winner of Game 5 usually wins the title.
72% of the time. You can't stress that enough. And you've talked about it a lot, Woj, that Chris Paul wanted to be here with the Suns. He saw what the potential was. And now he sits here with an opportunity to play in his first NBA Finals. But obviously, maybe slowing down a little bit. His scoring has decreased in every single game so far this Finals. But let me tell you whose scoring is not decreasing. That would be Chris Middleton. I'm calling him the man on fire, coming off a playoff career high with 40 points. But Middleton and Giannis have been the dynamic duo that maybe we constantly expect CP3 and Devin Booker to be. Do we need to start reevaluating the duo that the Bucks have?
Yes, because people need to start putting some respect on Chris Middleton's name. A lot of times when you're a second-round pick and you worked your way into being an NBA All-Star, into being the second-best player on the championship caliber team, when people start evaluating best duos around the league, they acknowledge Giannis as a back-to-back MVP, but they underestimate Middleton. And the biggest change that the Bucks did this year is they decided they were going to put the ball in Chris Middleton's hands late in basketball games. It's paid dividends for their squad.
Milwaukee's former general manager, John Hammond, he's a GM in Orlando now, drafted Giannis at 15th overall and traded for Chris Middleton as a throw-in in a Brandon Knight deal. Chris Middleton was a second-round pick, and he's got 2 cornerstone championship players, perhaps, that he put together.
Yeah, we keep talking about it, but both Giannis and Middleton, not lottery picks.
Oh.
You know, being there with the Bucks and having this opportunity to play in the finals, and they're making the adjustments. They have the momentum. Does it feel like the confidence is right now on the side of Milwaukee right now?
They're extremely confident, Money T, but here's the thing about Chris Middleton. They're going to need him to play a version of himself on the road that he plays at home. He's been dynamic playing at home, closing games in particular. They're going to need he and Drew Holiday for their games to travel. I know what I'm going to get for Giannis. You can pencil him in right now for 30 and 12. But if Chris Middleton can crack 30, if Chris Middleton cracks 30, they're undefeated in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the barometer.
And also, he shoots 42% from three and wins so far this postseason, 21% in losses from three. So we can almost use him as the barometer on whether or not the Bucks are going to win. But Woj, you do have some reporting to do about health and safety protocols for the Bucks.
Yeah, the Bucks announced earlier Giannis Antetokounmpo, Giannis' older brother, is in health and safety protocol. I'm told that he has not yet been ruled out for this series, and Malika Andrews and I are reporting Josh Oppenheimer, a Bucks assistant, will miss his third straight game tonight. He's in contact tracing. He could be back in Game 6. And Sean Wright, one of the officials scheduled to officiate tonight's game, was replaced. He's in health and safety protocols. It remains an issue in these finals.
Wow, the sidelines dealing with it, the officials dealing with it, and our own set, Jay Williams, dealing with it right now. But we still have to push forward and march on into Game 5 as we are tied up, knotted up at 2-2.